So let's go ahead and get started. Many of you are probably surprised to find rocky reefs here in Galapagos as opposed to coral reefs. This was Gardner Bay at Espanol Island, our first time getting into the water. But we still have an abundance of life on these rocky reefs, and one of the biggest representations is from the phylum Echinodermata. This phylum has about 7,500 species on the planet and literally means spiny skin. This includes sea urchins, such as this white sea urchin, sea cucumbers, sea stars. And speaking of sea cucumbers, this is one of the numerous species that we have here in Galapagos. These are fundamental to the ecosystem. You can see the tendrils out. They are feeding and processing out nutrients they need. In doing so, they're releasing more nutrients back into the benthic area. Fundamental. I'm sure most of you remember the name of this particular sea star, which is part of the Echinodermata. Yes, a chocolate chip sea star. Now, over the reef, we have quite a few different fish species. This is from a group called the butterfly fish. This is a barber fish. Now, barber fish are very specialized. They're cleaner fish, along with the next species that you're going to see here, the three-banded butterfly fish. You have larger fish or species coming over the reef. These will come out and see if they need any excess algae removed from them or maybe any parasites, kind of like a spot treatment. We have numerous pufferfish species in Galapagos. This is by far our largest. This is called the Pacific spot-fin puffer. These can get up to almost 1.5 feet in length. Now, over the reef, there are quite a few different species, schooling fish, and this one is endemic. This is called a black-stripe Selema. Now, I want you to pay attention carefully because this particular school is what we refer to as polarized. You'll note that one fish changes direction, the other one follows suit. Now, in general, fish have the length of their body what is called a lateral line, which is a dense nerve web, and they can sense the movement of the fish next to them without having to see them. So a polarized school can possibly confuse any predators coming in on just one individual. Also, we have juvenile fish coming into the reef. It's more protected away from the larger offshores, and these are pelican barracuda, and they're just a few inches in length. These will grow up to almost 3 feet in length. Now, I'm sure many of you saw this. This is a cornet fish. Now, these are closely related to pipefish and seahorses, but I want you to look very carefully in the center of the screen. Cornet fish have what are called chromatophores, which are pigment-laced cell structures in their epidermis, and they are able to open or close them and change their coloration almost instantly. This is a wonderful way to be camouflaged against potential predators. Survival is key on the rocky reef. Now, I think everyone has been able to see a shark at this point. These are white-tip reef sharks. This is the most common of the 32 species of sharks in Galapagos due to the fact that it is a shallow water shark, mostly nocturnal, but we do see them during the day. We also have a couple benthic stingray species. And when I say benthic, they're on the seafloor bottom. This is a diamond stingray. And on the seafloor bottom, this is where they're upturning sand, feeding on crustaceans or invertebrates. Now, close to the beach, we found one of these. This is a spiny green lobster, but this is actually a molt. Now, crustaceans, as they grow, they will grow out of their hard exoskeleton and they will molt it off. And this was just a couple of feet of water close to the beach. Now, we've all been able to see the Pacific green sea turtles. And as you've probably learned, these are the only species. This is the only species that nest within the Galapagos archipelago. Now, they will come into the shallows not only for nesting, but also to rest on the bottom. They will come in, stay down for an hour or two before coming up for a breath of air. Now, here in Galapagos, these are considered an endemic subspecies. There's a high rate of fidelity for the females that only come back to Galapagos to build their nest and lay their eggs. Now, I mentioned rocky reefs, but we do have hard-building coral species. This is at Champion off of Floriana. This particular genus is called Posiapora, which has about 9 species under it here in the Galapagos. And the next genus is Pavona, which has about 5 main species. Now, both of these groups can take on this drastic temperature change between the two seasons, going from 60 up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, some of you may have been avoiding this over the rocky reef, but if you got close to the hatpin sea urchin, you would have noted this dark indigo coloration, which is actually a protein covering over those rigid spines. One of our largest sea stars in Galapagos, the pyramid sea star, largest in length. These are quite common. And this is an endemic sea star called a Galapagos sun star. Now, it doesn't look like a sea star, but that has over 25 to 35 radial arms coming off of the center radius. They also have a color variation, almost an off-green or olive-green coloration. Another sea cucumber, this is called a brown sea cucumber, and this one is actually part of the local fishery. It is a controlled fishery by the national park, and the fishermen will take these, and they're sold actually to Asian markets. Now, over the hard coral, we may find the coral hawkfish, and this beautifully colored fish is only a couple inches in length. Now, off in the deeper water, off of Champion, you may have noticed a lot of debris floating. And this looks like a sea jelly, but this is a ctenophore, which is referred to as a comb jelly. Now, you see those tentacles. Those do not have stinging nemocysts. Those actually stick to zooplankton, and they will pull them into the sheath to be able to feed. Also in the deeper water, I was able to find a large Pacific green sea turtle male. You can see that long tail. And there's also large schools of five-spotted anthias or creole fish, also known as gringo fish locally. Yes, I've had to live with that name for many years. Now, some of the individual species over the reef, Cortez chubs, these are coming in. And it's interesting because we find different species, a very diverse group. This is part of the triggerfish group. This is called a black durgan. And also some brightly colored ones. These are king angelfish. Now, all of these are coming to the windward side of Champion for a specific reason. These next ones are yellow-tailed scad. These are rarely seen in the shallow water, so more of a pelagic fish. So it's kind of a pleasure to be able to see these. And this next one, if you got close to these, you would have noticed they would come right up to you and maybe look you in the eye. This is a Peruvian grunt. Now, all of these species come into the shallow reef on the windward side of Champion because the current comes around, splits around the island, but it's bringing in an abundance of phytoplankton, zooplankton. These are dusky chubs, an endemic species. And a little bit deeper, but still on that wall over the rocky reef, large aggregations of burrito grunts, and you'll find among them, getting back to the butterfly fish, these are barber fish waiting for any large species to come in so they'll be able to clean them. Now, if you got up close to the coast and you notice some of the whitewash, you might have seen these. These are a type of jack. These are called still pompanos, and they will specifically be in the whitewash where the waves are crashing as a way to protect them from predators coming in. Quite a few birds feeding. This is a brown noddy. And we've seen these throughout this journey. These are skimmers, just going down to the surface, picking off small fish, not plunge diving like the boobies. Now, on this deep wall, this goes down to almost 100 feet at Champion Island. Lots of nooks and crannies, perfect place for some of these sea turtles to come in and rest for a few hours. Out of the current, relatively shallow. Now, getting back to the shallow reef, we have numerous members of the damselfish group. This is one of the largest. This is called a giant damselfish. These are highly territorial. They'll run off larger fish from their territory, and this territory is where they're feeding and also laying eggs and protecting those eggs. Hieroglyphic hawkfish. This is one of my favorites. It's a typical fish lying in wait, mostly nocturnal in their feeding behavior, but any potential prey going by them, they just open their jaw very quickly to suck them in. Another highly predatory fish over the reef is a type of wrasse. This is called a Mexican streamer hogfish, and this is one of the main predators on pencil sea urchins and other sea urchin species. Did any of you see this? Brightly colored pufferfish. This is called a guinea fowl pufferfish, and approximately 10% of the population are this color variation, which is called a golden phase, bright yellow. Now, I always mention this to our guests that if you haven't seen this fish, you have not been snorkeling. These are razor surgeonfish. Now, large fish might be worried about potential predators, but take a look at the peduncle. See those 3 white dots on the peduncle right before the tail fin or caudal fin? Those are sharp spines. Any predator might think twice about going after one of these. And then these guys showed up, Galapagos sea lions. We had numerous young sea lions, very playful at Champion Island. Now, Galapagos sea lions are quite interesting because they have a very long maternal care period. They may nurse upwards to 2 years, maybe 3 years. Now, that's a long period for marine mammals. And one reason is due to the variation in productivity in the ocean between our two main seasons. So if you're nursing for up to 2 years and your mother goes out to forage, what are you going to do all day? Well, you're going to find other sea lions and try to play with them. And that means blowing bubbles at each other, playing chase. They'll also go after any other material that they find there. Now, all of you think that these are incredibly cute species, but if you ask any of the other species in this shore zone, they hate the sea lions. The sea lions will take sea stars and sea cucumbers and use them as chew toys. They will take pufferfish, grab them by the tail. Look, this one's going after my fin right here. They'll go after the tail. They'll shake them back and forth until the pufferfish inflates their swim bladder, and then they'll push it around like a football. They will go after white-tip reef sharks, grabbing them by the caudal fin and quickly taking off. Marine iguanas, going out of the diving and foraging in the ocean, trying to get back to land to warm up to digest their food. Sea lions will come and grab them by the tail and bring them back into the ocean. Safe to say, marine iguanas do not have a sense of humor. Well, I will give them credit, though. All of this play is going to convert into skills that they will need when they eventually are weaned from their mothers, and they will have to go far offshore to be able to forage on their own. I want you to take a look at this individual. He had a shark bite. You see that half-moon scar? Healed quite well without a problem. Now, maybe some of you can help me identify this species. Very strange, floating very close to the shore. Whatever the case, they do look incredibly happy. A little too dry, but incredibly happy. Now, this was just off the shore at Cerro Dragon on Santa Cruz Island. This is our largest gastropod or sea snail in Galapagos. This is a Galapagos conch. That shell can get up to a foot in length, and these are incredibly long-lived, 15 to 20 years. But one of the most prominent sea urchin species that we have here are the pencil sea urchins. We have seen these everywhere. We've seen the spines up on the coastal areas. Now, these are very slow grazers on the rocky reef, but they're also a very important vector for distribution of other species. Take a look at their spines. They have algae, colonial bryozoans, polychaete worms. When they move, they're moving those species with them. Now, getting back to the damselfish, this is an endemic species, a yellow-tailed damsel, and you can see it has a little garden. That is its algae that it's protecting. It's actually beneficial to the algae, but these are very brave fish. Any large fish coming in, they'll run off. Even if a sea urchin wanders in, they'll grab it in their mouth, and they will throw it to the side to maintain their garden free. Over the reef, highly camouflaged fish in certain areas. This is called a calico lizardfish. And some of you notice these bright iridescent blue dots on the fish. This is a juvenile of a giant damselfish. I had shown a giant damselfish earlier. Now, you don't see these too often. This is a puffer, but this is an endemic puffer fish. It's called a Galapagos puffer. And this was a juvenile, just a few inches in length. These can get up to almost half a foot. But it was very strange because this one was quite curious about my camera. It was coming up. Take a look at that smile. Now, one of the biggest reef fish that we have, numerous species here in Galapagos, are parrotfish. And the most common is the blue-chin parrotfish. These are most likely females. And parrotfish are fascinating on this planet. The majority of the species are sequential hermaphrodites, which means they all hatch as females. As they grow out of the predator range of large predators and population dynamics demand, some will turn into this, which is a terminal phase or a male. Take a look at that mustache he has. It's actually algal growth on the upper lip. And I know some of you are able to find octopus. This is a Galapagos reef octopus, the most incredible mollusk that you will find in the ocean and absolutely the most intelligent. These are problem solvers, possibly self-aware. Now, when you look at this species, Each of those tentacles has their own centralized nervous system. The inside blood system is not iron-based, it's copper-based, deep blue blood. They also have chromatophores. They can change their coloration and their shape instantly to be protected from potential predators. Now, this particular individual was right next to another one that was tucked in underneath the rock. Most likely they were breeding. Fascinating point is these species have 8,000 to 9,000 more genes than our genomic makeup. And close to the beach, just in shallow water, we had quite a few of these white salamas, and also an endemic fish, but you also see a concentric pufferfish that's integrated into this school. Now, take a look here in a second. You'll see that they stop and they're static over the sandy bottom, and this is to be protected from potential predators. Just incredible. Now, many of you are searching for wildlife this morning, but you may have noticed some of the lava tubes at Bartolome Island going all the way down into the ocean. I'm sure you can guess the name of the sea star. Yes, a blue star. Now, as we were going over the benthic area, we probably noticed some of these incredibly large ones. This is actually the largest sea star that we have here. This is called the Panamic sea cushion. Now, they're specifically over the benthic area because they're slow moving and they're feeding on invertebrates, in particular, juvenile or very small sea urchins. These are rainbow wrasse, a small cleaner fish over the rocky reef. We've seen these everywhere. But they have an interesting method at propagation. The females will go up in a ball above the reef, release all the fertilized eggs in the water column, and come back down to the reef. This is called broadcast spawning. Now, this was a rare sighting for me. I've never seen this here at Bartolome, but at other islands. This is called a golden rim surgeonfish. We also had more rays. Look at that barb at the tail base. This is a diamond ray. Now, those barbs do not have venom sacs, but all the connective tissue around the barbs are venomous. It can be very painful if you step on these or grab these. See if you can find the octopus. Dead center. That's a baby octopus right there, trying to be protected from any predators. We also had numerous white tip reef sharks. This is a male. You can see the claspers, which are those horizontal fins. And some of you may have thought that sharks need to continuously move for respiration, but that's not the case with reef sharks. If you look, you notice this one is slowly opening and closing its jaw. This is causing suction and water flow over the gills, causing respiration. And I was happy to see this. This is a juvenile Galapagos shark. Some of you had gone out the night before and you were able to see adult Galapagos sharks, closely related to great whites. These are actually the main predator on sea lions. And then finishing off this snorkel, I was able to find a single penguin that had come out of the water at the Pinnacle Rock in Bartolome. Very delicate population, not more than maybe 40 to 50 individuals in the immediate area where we were snorkeling at Bartolome and Santiago. And this was the afternoon at Sombrero Chino. If you were able to look into some of these lava tubes, you would find black-tip cardinalfish and also other species tucked in. Now, these are marbled rays. This is our other main species of stingrays. These can get up to almost 3 feet in diameter, up to 1 meter in diameter. These are also called raya sartén, which means frying pan ray in Spanish. And also some of those lava tubes. We had young white-tip sharks that were just resting during the day. They will become a little bit more active at night. You can see the respiration there as they're slowly opening their jaws. And also, this is a nocturnal species, so tucked in during the day. This is a spiny red lobster. And this is one of the main species out of the 3 that we have here in Galapagos. And this is also part of the local fishery with our local fishermen. Now, I'm curious, did any of you see this floating in the water while you were snorkeling at Sombrero Chino? This is called a mesoglia, which is the center part of a sea jelly. Now, the majority is water with a little bit of a collagen matrix to keep it all together. This gives sea jellies mass to float in the current. No nutritional value. So when you find these, you know that sea turtles most likely have been feeding on the sea jelly, just leaving that behind. And lastly, finishing off, another member of the damsel family. These are called Panamic Sergeant Majors. And these are very active off of the reef, feeding in the water column. But during the breeding season, you'll see them very close to the reef, turning a kind of a dark purplish coloration as they protect their eggs. I hope this gives you more information about the uniqueness of the surrounding waters of the Galapagos.